All right, guys, welcome back to the Sacred Men YouTube channel and podcast. This is Pastor Justin Dean, and we're doing this new segment where we're kind of interviewing builders. You're probably familiar with the podcast and familiar with the theme that there's only three types of men in the world. There's builders, there's consumers, and there's destroyers, and we want to be builders. And so today I am interviewing my friend Adam Lantelme. And Adam, I'm going to let you kind of just introduce yourself.
Sure.
Introduce yourself to the viewers.
Cool. Like you said, I'm Adam Lantelme. I'm a Scorpio, I'm just kidding. Son of a Navy guy, grew up all over the world, and been an entrepreneur about 15 years now. So my path was probably an untraditional path into entrepreneurship, but the thing about it is I couldn't ever get a normal job. Like there's no way I could ever go back to clocking in or clocking out, and so I have to be building something. Currently, I'm involved with a company that I founded back in 2022 called Vanish. That is a product company that makes holsters as well as dry fire training equipment. And then I've also got another thing that I'm cooking up currently in the new environment that I'm in that I'll have to be a little bit tight-lipped about on right now until some official documents are signed, but I can probably poke around the bear that is this new company that I'm building.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad because the algorithm knows that I like your stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this guy's commercials because I'm just taking money from this guy.
Yeah.
And so every social media platform is just like.
The nice thing is it's cost per impression. So once you've seen it, it doesn't matter if you watch for 1 second or if you watch the entire video. Totally different ballgame if you're on Google Shopping or Google Ads or something like that, where you're like, oh, I'm searching Vanish holster, and then you click that ad. Then it's a cost per click, and normally that doesn't cost that much, but if you're a lawyer or something like that, it can be $30 a click. So totally different. When you can consume my videos as much as you want, you don't have to worry about costing me more than a fraction of a penny.
Nice. So you gave a little bit of your story there.
Yeah.
You're married.
Yep, married, 2 kids, 8 and 4. It is awesome.
Okay. I guess first thing, what got you here? What got you in the Quad Cities?
So I met my wife in Denver. I actually went to school at the University of Utah to be a pro snowboarder. So that was my intention, at least. I quickly discovered that I wasn't resilient enough because I had broken enough bones and was just ready to hang up my head at 23, and nor was I fearless enough. So I ended up being involved in the pro snowboarder scene for the entire time that I was there. So Salt Lake City, for those who aren't well aware, is a pretty godless place to be. And so I had the history of growing up in the church, and I pretty much gave up on Christ and religion in my mid-20s, and it ended up being the case like that. One night, crazy party, my friends and I had bought a bottle of vodka for his younger brother who was 17 years old, and that night he ended up getting in a car crash and killing 4 people. So anytime you see one of those signs at the liquor store, it's like, hey, you're directly responsible for anybody who you buy for. That kind of freaked me out, got me back in church. And so in Salt Lake, I was like, there's no way I'm actually going to find a wife here because they're either Mormon or they're the complete opposite. And so I moved to Denver. Denver from 2012 to 2019. There's where I met my wife. We had our first kid.
So there's a better chance in Denver than Salt Lake.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe less so now because there's so many Californians out in Denver.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't so bad. But we had our first kid. There was some volatility in the business. And I was like, what can I do to control my expenses? Well, I certainly can't make living here cheaper. And we don't have any friends anymore because as soon as somebody moved 5 miles away, you never saw them again. And so we decided to move to the Quad Cities because my wife was from here. Her parents live 4 houses down the street from where we're sitting right now. And it so happens that as we were moving the week before, the house that I live in, 5 houses up the street, came available. They've toured it with their iPhones, and I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and buy it. So it was a cost benefit analysis. I was like, I'll miss the mountains forever.
I've been like sitting on this because in one sense, I feel like Iowa and where we're at is kind of like the Shire. And I don't want it to be ran over with orcs.
It's not gonna.
So, yeah, it's not gonna, because we don't have mountains and we don't have beaches and we don't.
And it's 10 degrees outside.
It's 10 degrees. I mean, thank God it keeps it, because business is pretty good here. Cost of living is pretty great here. We're still fairly conservative and fairly normal. You can raise a family. I mean, it's a pretty great place to live.
Yeah.
You know, and you're 2.5 hours from crazy town Chicago if you want to go and experience that. And you can obviously get on a plane and go anywhere. So like, I haven't pushed this idea of like, you should move to Iowa.
Right.
Because I almost, it's like, do I really want them here? I don't want Californians bringing that garbage here,
Yeah, exactly.
But it is you're a perfect example. It's a good place to start a business. It's a good place to raise a family. It's a good place to find a church.
Yeah, and the truth is, like, I wouldn't see myself leaving here anytime soon. Like, really, the thing that probably has us here more than anything is my in-laws, just because having family around, like, I love the idea of my kids growing up around their grandparents. You know, if they were to pass anytime soon, I don't think I'd be leaving. I don't want to uproot them, but, you know, when they're 20 and I'm empty nester, I might find my way down to Florida. I own a house down there that we Airbnb, and I'm like, yeah, I could live there. It's 3 minutes from the beach. And on days like this, I could see myself sitting on the beach being like, okay, that was a better decision. But, you know, that doesn't mean that I'm going to abdicate my responsibility to what I need to be doing here on earth, which is like we're talking about building, right? Like, I don't want to be the kind of person who hits 65 and retires. Like, I'll never be that person. There's no possible way.
Yeah, same. I believe in slowing down, but I don't believe in like retiring.
Yeah.
When I'm 65, I might be working 30 hours a week and then golfing 10, something like that, or golfing 10 or 20 or something. I don't know. But I believe in slowing down, but definitely not stopping. So what got you from bouncing around, going to school, snowboarding, to being a builder, entrepreneur? How'd you make that transition?
Yeah, so the way that it worked is when I was in Salt Lake City, I was snowboarding all the time. I actually ended up skipping a year of school just to snowboard like crazy, and I got a pretty terse letter from my grandfather, like, that's the biggest mistake you could ever make. Now I would argue going to school without any idea of what you want to do is the bigger mistake, but that being said, my dad was a subscriber to financial newsletters. So people who write based on their past history of investing and then telling people, hey, these are good stock picks. There was a service that one of these companies offered people. It was, hey, learn how to write a sales letter like these newsletters that you're doing, and you can make 6 figures a year. So my dad knew that I had a salesmanship background. You know, I was doing kiosk and all that kind of stuff in college just to pay the bills. So I learned this thing called copywriting. If you're not familiar with that, like, you can think of Mad Men, or you can just think of any ad, not marketing, but an ad where it's like, hey, you really want this, go buy it now. That's called ad copy. So I pretty much just learned how to write those on my own. I worked with a 200-page book, and it was like, rewrite all these classic letters 8 to 10 times a piece by hand so that you can learn them. So I did that, and then after a while just kept learning, studying all this stuff to become a copywriter. So that would have been like, late 2008, 2009 that I was doing that, and I kept chipping away at that while I was in school, while I was working, and while I was snowboarding. I was hoping that, maybe I'll work like 4 hours a day and then I can be rich enough to go heliboarding.
The 4-hour work week.
Oh, I mean, I was content to do 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's one thing about entrepreneurship. There's no such thing as an 8-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I was going to be rich and I was just going to be able to heliboard all that I wanted, and not have to go across a lift line because I was going to be out there hitting pow. And that never happened, because then I discovered, like, making money usually requires hard work, especially if you're kind of targeting that thing. So I moved to Denver specifically for 2 reasons. One, to get out of Salt Lake so I could find a wife. And then 2, there was a guy out there who he claimed that he was the world's most referred direct response copywriter. And he probably was at that time. So I went out there to make him my mentor. He had no idea that I was coming or anything like that. And when I get there, I wrote him a letter, because I was working at Fleming Steakhouse, which is like a Ruth's Chris, Morton's, Del Frisco's kind of steakhouse. And I wrote him a 3-page letter, and I was like, let me tell you why me buying you a steak dinner is going to make you millions of dollars. And so he was captivated enough to agree to let me take him out to dinner, and I did, and we hit it off immediately. He's a conspiracy theorist. I was one of those. Now I'm not, because I just don't care. And then he basically took me under his wing, more or less. It wasn't like a very involved mentorship, but I would meet with him once a week for a year or so. And then he started farming me work that he couldn't take any longer. And so I became a copywriter, which basically meant that I was writing emails for people. So if they had a product that they wanted to sell, I would write the email. The unfortunate thing about like the path was that a lot of direct response copywriting is spammy and scammy. So for a number of years, a lot of the work that I did, I didn't really believe in it. And there was a portion of my journey where I did stuff that was absolutely unethical. Can't take it back, but I did course correct in around 2021 when I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I hate it. Like, the fact that I'm making money does not justify the means by which we're making the money. So that's what has steered me into Vanish. The path there it was interesting. Like, I basically had two business partners, and they were business partners from a previous job that I was freelancing with them with. And so, we had this old business model that I actually dissolved all of my relationship with earlier in 2025. I was continuing to be paid by the business, though I was no longer involved in it. And I was just like, I'm out of this. But I digress. What happened is we were running into trouble trying to advertise on Facebook. And so we got a hold of a company called Brave Response Holsters. And the idea there was like, hey, I had already had experience as an affiliate with them. And I was like, yeah, I could sell that. And so we started doing stuff online with them. And we were ready to purchase the company. Problem was the guy, A, overvalued the company. And then B, didn't let us know that his entire core of manufacturing, which was all based in Utah, like went belly up. And he had no redundancy in his manufacturing. So we had just done a lot of work to build the infrastructure to be able to scale this business. And so we were like, oh, crap, like, what are we going to do now? So we managed to limp along for a little bit, and then we pivoted with our holster, which was a modification of his holster. He had patents on it that were design patents, which are pretty easy to get around. And so we just said, and I wasn't trying to get around it just to get around it. I was like, well, how can I make this product better? And so that's when we created the Vanish holster in 2022. And since then, it's been us just trying to make that thing work. One thing about just being about building is it's a really good idea to know the materials you're building with and what you plan on building. And if you're going to be doing it with partners, doing a lot of under the hood work, which I was too scared to ask because I was just like, things are fine. Like, we'll be okay. Like, I don't need to worry about those things.
Like, what do you mean?
So basically, I'll try and be diplomatic as well as, I don't know the reach. Like, I don't think this will go viral, but I have to be careful with what I say. The primary equity holder in our business has done some things to benefit him over others. And so that includes a lot of, it wouldn't be nefarious, just like really clever ways to game the system, like moving to Puerto Rico for a couple of years so he could reduce his tax burden, and then creating all these different entities so that he can move money around and all those kinds of things, and really keeping people in the dark. So you have to know like who you're partnering with. Like you need to know through and through. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, you're marrying that person. You better believe that if they are going to screw you over, it's going to hurt really, really bad. And that's basically what happened, and where in my life right now I'm pivoting. And like, the thing about it is, like, I can talk about Vanish. We have generated over $80 million of sales in the past 4 years. I don't have a lot to show for it, which isn't a problem, because at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to be able to take that stuff with me. But it's also just, I mean, it's really, and by not a lot to show for it, $80 million, you'd expect that, like, I'm a multimillionaire. I'm not. But I've done well enough, and I'm comfortable, and I'm able to fund my new venture without any major issues. But you just need to know those kinds of things.
Yeah. So were your partners, were they Christian?
No, they weren't.
There's a Bible verse about that.
Don't be unequally yoked. Yeah. No, it's, and those should have been red flags. I had one of them going to a church that I was going to, like, kind of dipping in and out, and the other would go to church. But, like, I noticed, like, they would be home on a Sunday, or it wasn't a thing that they really cared about. They were just passive Christians. They said they were Christian, but, like, you certainly wouldn't see it represented in their life by any means.
Yeah, which is
common.
And it's scary too, because if you're a business partner and you can't, I mean, this guy might not honor his word. This guy might have nefarious practices, or he might have, questionable character or lack of virtues, and you're married to that guy.
Yeah.
All right. And, your name is tied, even the name of Vanish, right, is tied to his behavior and his ethics as much as it is to yours. So it can create all kind of problems. So what have you learned? I mean, so what else have you learned out of that? Like, because that's 80 million in sales. That's spectacular, right?
Yeah, that's in the past 5 years. And I think, like, if I were to go through how much I've generated in the past 12 or so, it's $160 million, like for other companies, as well as like some of the other companies we had prior to that. And there was a banner year where we had a lot of money that was made unethically. So it's like anybody can lie to make money. And I'll own that. Like people who know me in the business know what we used to do. And I justified it. So, and that kind of stuff rubs off on you. And then I think the biggest thing that I learned is like, you shouldn't be chasing success, like for its own sake. You shouldn't be chasing money. And you definitely shouldn't try and find your identity in anything else other than Jesus Christ. And I know that sounds like preaching to the choir, but I mean, up until last year, I don't think that my faith was never as solid as it is now. And now, like, I have such better clarity on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I remember listening to a King's Hall podcast years ago, and they were I think it was when they first started, and they were talking about what they're trying to do here, and they were talking about building things that endure. And what we were doing is just throwing up a prefab home with cheap wood and drywall, and maybe it would last 50 years. And what you really want to be doing is building an edifice that can last for centuries, if not millennia. And so that was the mentality that I had before, was let's just build this thing and we'll be able to make money along the way. I was just chasing making money.
Yeah.
And now what I've learned is like money and what you're able to generate and what you're able to keep even doesn't matter. Because how could it? It's going to burn. It'll all burn when you die. The only thing that matters is your security in Jesus Christ, and then accepting and living that out, and then like pointing it outward so that other people can see that too.
Yeah. And that's a good point. So you can be obviously you can be a builder and a consumer at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like if you build to consume, that's kind of what you're talking about. If you're just building something, I mean, Proverbs talks a lot about the guy who knows how to get rich quick.
Yeah.
Right. And you can make it quick and you can spend it quick, but wealth gained a little by little over time that lasts. And the point is you're building something that doesn't just bring in a revenue or doesn't just bring in income, but it provides a service to society. And what we've been talking about on the podcast is potentially building something that you could pass off to your children.
Yeah, legacy product would be huge. Like, I don't know if my son's going to work in the business. I bought him his first gun when he was 7. My parents were concerned, or at least my mom was. And I was like, absolutely. I want to set the stage now to maybe he has an interest. But again, like it should be something that endures. And I think about this a lot when I look at other businesses. We were just talking about it the other day about like health, food, the kind of stuff you see at Fresh Time. You're like, there's so many different brands that just pop up and disappear. Now that's more to the marketplace and like how challenging it is, but that's how most people's mentalities are. Like there aren't many companies around right now that existed 150 years ago.
Right.
Like I can't think of too many off of the top of my head. So that's the kind of business that you should be looking to build. And one of the other things that I've learned is like, rarely does anything good happen fast, but bad things will happen fast. So if you're able to approach building with that mentality, like you will be able to weather the storms of when bad things happen, because you realize that, a single direction, step after step is how you get to where you want to be. There's this quote that I have on my desk. It's like 90% of success, let's just say business success, is doing the uncommonly simple thing over and over again without ever convincing yourself you're smarter than you are. And that's just how you build things. Like you just have to put one foot in front of the other. I wish I had done that like a long time ago. I didn't know, like I thought I was doing the right thing, and now I know. And so if 5 years ago I could have told myself, hey, this is the thing that you should be doing, I would have absolutely done that then, because I have that retrospective view on that, hindsight of that.
Yeah, look in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the adage that weeds grow fast, right? Weeds grow fast and oak trees grow really slow. Mm-hmm. And it's painful to watch an oak tree grow.
Yeah.
Right? But once it gets to a certain size, and then that thing, is one of the strongest trees out there, and it can weather the storm that you're talking about. But what you don't see is all of the work God is doing, let's say, for that oak tree. Every hard winter, every hard summer, every time that wind blows and it has to strengthen it, all of that difficulty is what makes that tree so strong.
Yeah.
And when you look at your story like that, there's only one way to learn this stuff. You can't just sit down and read 10 business books and then go do it. You've actually got to start building and put one foot in front of the other and wear that tool belt, and you learn the hard way. You learn who to go into business with, who not. You learn by making mistakes consistently, and then just waking up the next day and going, okay, I'm not going to do that today.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I remember reading well before I'd even ventured out on my own was this idea that, like, as you level up, like, let's just say you level up to level 2, what happens next? Well, there's level 3, and then there's level 4. There is no end to the leveling up. Like, you're never going to just reach a mountaintop and stay there. There's always valleys. And that's where the best and most formative work is done, is in the valleys. And that's, what's happened in our business over the past 20 months, which is some of the stuff I can't really speak to. But I'll just tell you, like, if you were me, you'd be like, this is absolute bullcrap. Like, I can't believe I'm having to deal with this. Like, I'm paying for the sins of another, that kind of thing. Like, it's just, I could sit here and play the victim, but this is just my lot in life. And so we've been sitting there allowing for this to transform us into who we want to be as individuals as well as a company. So current company and even the new one that I'm starting, like, those are the kinds of things that we're like, yeah, this is just how it is to build. It doesn't mean that you should avoid it either, because God wouldn't have been able to do what he's done in my life in the past year without all of the difficulty that I had. Bar none, 2025 was the most difficult year of my life as an adult. Without beyond the shadow of a doubt. It sucked. Like, so freaking bad. And, my videos get seen 200 million times a year through all of our paid ads. We spend $1 million a month just on paid ads. So people probably think, wow, it's just going great for them. I mean, if that's the thing, is like, people are always trying to compare what it is to be like the person that they see, whether that's influencers or whatever. Like, they don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not the case that things are just going along swimmingly. And we're fighting. Like, we literally fight for our lives every single day. I took myself off of payroll for 3 months. Just put myself back on today for 90% less than what I made 2 years ago. So those are the kinds of things that, like, I'm prepared to do, because we're here to build. I mean, I believe that's why God has brought us to this earth. It's not the only reason, but we know he is a creator. And he talks about seeking first the kingdom. Well, the kingdom has to be built, and it's going to be through the hands of violent men, not necessarily violence of, like, physical violence, hurting other people, but like violence of action. You have to move. You have to be pushing forward. You can't let what happened yesterday dictate what you're going to do tomorrow, but it can inform what you do tomorrow, and it should. So,
man, there's a lot there. Yeah, I read this book a long time ago. The guy who wrote Tribes, what's that guy's name? I forget now. But this,
it's up there.
Seth Godin. I see.
Oh, okay.
Seth Godin. But this one was called The Dip, and it talks about just like growth in life, growth in business. It's so hard to get going. It's so hard to get that momentum, and then you get this little bit of a return and a little bit of climb.
Yeah.
And then inevitably you get the dip.
Absolutely.
And he talks about how it's like absolutely necessary for any business to decline, to get that dip.
Yeah.
And that gives you breathing room. You can reflect on what's happened, what you need to do. And then if you make the course corrections, you make the changes, you implement the new strategies, whatever, that business will begin to rise again. So it's kind of up, down, and then if you course correct and everything, it starts going up. And he says that is, for the most part, like healthy business growth. It's going to be it's going to be constantly like this. But he just talks about how important that valley season is in, assessing, okay, what went right? What did we do that just was awesome? And then, okay, what sucked? What did we screw up? Right? What do we need to learn? What new opportunities are out there that we need to take advantage of? And if you're doing that consistently, and you're meeting market demands and all that kind of stuff, that's what it feels like. But most of us, we think to be a successful entrepreneur, you come up with this brilliant idea and then you execute it and it's just,
up and to the right.
It's just viral.
Yeah.
It just blows up. And if that happened, that would literally, look at the people that win the lottery. there's something like a 90%.
Or broke within like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get this windfall and you're not the type of person, you don't have the virtue to handle that.
Yeah.
Right. And that business success is like that. Those valleys help you reflect, help you build character, build virtue, learn from the mistakes. So now you can actually carry that business into more success. Because tell me what I want to say is, every time your business grows, it demands that you grow along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How have you experienced that? Like, I've got to be different. I've got to take on more weight. I've got to grow.
Yeah, I think that, so our growth has actually been non-existent. We've been consistently bumping along at the same revenues for several years, like 5 years. We had a better year this last year, despite actually losing money. Like, we netted out losing a pretty substantial sum. So I think that our growth is a little bit different than the up and to the right with the dips. But what has happened is, like, we've basically been fixing problems the entire time. And those problems are endemic to the company itself, how it was formed, and then just like how we operate. So you heard about how I used to want to do business just to make money. I mean, I remember in 2018, we did a little retreat for ourselves where we're going to plan the year and we're going to kind of vision cast and all this kind of stuff. And if you haven't been to Telluride, it's insane. It's probably the most beautiful place in the United States, and it's incredibly expensive. And I'm just sitting here looking at all these houses and like all the land. It's like, how do I make $100 million? Like, because that's what I want to do. I want to own one of these ranches out here so that I can view the San Juan Mountains. That's my why. That's a pretty poor why, because honestly, heaven's going to look a lot better than that. But I mean, that's what motivated me, was just making money so that I could have this thing that I wanted, which I thought would bring me happiness. And the thing that has happened, I mean, just to answer the question in a different way, is like, I've just had to change because my motivation has been wrong the entire time. So I think, like, if you're building something, every single one of us wants to build something, like, or maybe not everybody, but like, if you identify as a builder, you have to have a why. And I don't think that why is unimportant at all. It's the most important thing that you could possibly answer. And it has to be something that is immaterial, and it has to be oriented straight to Jesus Christ, because nothing else matters. I mean, you just have to understand that, like, you're on borrowed time. God gave you this life. It's a gift. You're meant to steward your time, and you're meant to give him glory before anything else and to serve him. And so if you're not aligned with those principles, anything that you do in work, even if you have worldly success, is going to fail you. I know that was tangential to what you said, but
no, I mean, it's vital though, because I mean, Jesus said this, right? Like, you're working for something that's not eternal.
Yeah.
Right. And you're putting money in pockets with holes in it, right? You can't take any of it with you. So, I mean, but it sounds like, I mean, you said your growth is leveled off. So you're in that, it seems like you're in that dip, right? Where you're evaluating practices, you're seeing mistakes, you're changing, you're making decisions for the future.
Yeah. Well, I'll interrupt. So I think it was 2019 to 2020, we 10x'd. So we went up 1,000%. So from like $2 million that year to $20 million the next year. So it was just up and to the right, almost parabolic. There was a lot of crappy stuff that we did to get there. So I'm not going to say, well, we were just killing it because we're so smart and God's hand was on us. Even though his hand was definitely on us in the way that, like, he has now brought me to this place. So, I've never once backed off and said, I'm not going to do this because God isn't fair or anything. Like, I could shake my fist at the sky and be like, why are we suffering all the time? But, yeah, so it's just been like, I guess we would have dipped and then we plateaued, and then we're on our uptrend right now, fixing those problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like Seth would say, every business goes through that. Some of them can be months, some of them can be years, some of them can be decades. You think of like the automotive industry and things like that, right? That have went decades of pretty much flat growth. But
and then you can go out of business.
Yeah, you definitely
Pontiac.
can. You definitely can. You definitely can. You can go out of business. But again, usually that's a failure to either adjust your practices, adapt to the market.
Yeah.
Right. something along those lines, or a failure to get government contracts that just take
We
us
didn't get
into-
bailed out. What the heck?
Exactly. So what is it like? What has that experience been like for you? So I just preached this past week on Hebrews chapter 12, and the Lord has made us his sons, and because we're his sons, he disciplines us.
Yeah.
He takes us through difficult things, and as a sign of his love,
Yeah.
to take us through this process of discipline, even though, just like any child, discipline in the moment seems painful, right? But it yields a peaceful fruit of righteousness in the end. What's it been like to go through that process the past few years as a business owner, as a father, as a Christian?
I mean, it's honestly been everything. So what would happen for me throughout most of this process is every single morning I would wake up, and the first thing that I would do is check the sales report from the day before. Like, how much did we make? So my identity quickly became, what is that number? Is it up? Is it down? If it was up, then I may have felt better. If it was down, I probably felt worse. And, I was always just trying to keep that number going up because we wanted to keep the business alive. Truly, like we saddled ourselves with some serious problems to where we could never just get a nice fresh start. It was like turning around an aircraft carrier, and like we're still turning it around after a decision that was made almost 5 years ago. So I didn't realize that was what was going on, that my identity was so tied to the performance of the business until February of last year, where we had a really rough 3 days. And I remember calling my business partner. I was like, hey, I've got to pull out right now. I was already set to go to Florida for like a kind of a vacation. And I was like, I can't be here mentally. Like, I'm miserable and I need to figure out what is going on here. Like, what is God trying to teach me? Because right now, this feels like he is executing me, like slowly. And that was a turning point for me, because I realized I kept going back to Psalm 23, and I was just I had it memorized at that point. I probably could recall it, but I'm sitting there and thinking about a good shepherd and who he is, and knowing that I'm one of those sheep, and I'm a lost sheep at that. And the thing about it is, a lot of the time sheep will wander off. You look at that verse where Jesus, or that parable where Jesus is talking about the shepherd and the sheep leaving the sheep pen. It's like they're just sitting there wandering off, but the shepherd has never changed. He has never taken his eyes off of them. They're never out of his reach. He still loves them. And so I began to really reflect on his love and what that meant. And one of the cool things that happened throughout this time was, I have a favorite podcast. I used to listen to it a lot more, called Blurry Creatures. So even though I'm a lapsed conspiracy theorist, I do enjoy a good conspiracy about the Nephilim or something like that.
Dabble in the spiritual creatures.
But a quick aside, like, I quit chasing conspiracy theories because I found at the end of every single rabbit hole is Jesus anyway. So like, why do I care? It's like, I know the answer. Like, I don't need to go down this anymore. Oh, it's the Illuminati. It's Jesus Christ that's the answer. Oh, it's aliens. It's Jesus Christ that's the answer. I don't have to worry anymore.
They're all going to bow at his feet anyway. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had this guy named John Burke on. He's a pastor who teaches down in Austin, and he wrote a couple books on near-death experiences. And so all of his stuff is like, hey, I'm not saying these are true, but I'm telling you, like, a lot of the near-death experiences that are reported, and he's interviewed 1,500 people, line up very closely with Scripture. So I'm just going to tell these stories and then show you like how they line up with Scripture. I thought that was cool, but the most important thing out of all of that is like the way that people related to Jesus Christ and his overwhelming love for them, and the way that they're absolutely struck. There's so many people in these books who were not Christians, who had an experience with Jesus, and when they come back, I mean, not all of them, but so many of them are like, I have to find who that man was. I don't know who he was. And they come to him because of his overwhelming love. So I read a bunch of those, and I was just like, this is the only thing I care about, is the love of Jesus Christ. And I can find that every single day without having to chase it, because it's readily available to me through prayer, through Scripture, and most importantly, the Holy Spirit resides in me. So the discipline was like, hey, this feels really bad. Why does it feel really bad? Well, your identity is in your performance, but you shouldn't be, because the identity that you have is in a son bought, like paid for in blood by Jesus Christ. That's the extent of the love. So now I feel prepared in a way to experience success, and I know that we're set up for some really cool stuff. Like, I'm wearing a product right now that's going to be part of the new company. You can't see it, and that's a good thing. That I'm ready to file 2 patents on, and is absolutely going to disrupt the industry that it's being put in front of. So it's like, would I have been prepared for that 5 years ago? No, not at all. Not even in the least. And now I'm sitting here like I haven't made any money for months. I'm literally taking off investments and just selling and then buying things that I'm like, you have no way to even know if like your company that you own and are a partner in is ever going to pay you, or if this new venture is going to pay you. And I'm like, I don't care, because if everything fell apart and I had nothing anyways, like I have the only thing that matters, and that's the love of Christ. And so like, I think that part in Hebrews is like the discipline is really painful as you go through it. But then on the other side, and especially as you mature, you can sit there and go, as a dad, I can then understand what it's like to discipline my child because I love him so much. But when I was a kid and my dad was disciplining me, I was like, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
I can't stand you. Like, why are you doing this?
Well, man, that's a lot of good stuff there. So I'm thinking, I've heard this phrase that the father who loves his son hates the alcoholic in his son.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like the alcoholic is this false identity that like, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And so the father that loves the son hates the alcoholic in his son. So he's wanting to discipline the alcoholic out of him. Well, every false identity that we cling to is like that alcoholic. It's like that false version of ourself. Number one, that is erratic. It's not solid. It can be destroyed. It's not eternal. So if your identity is based solely on success, you literally wake up every morning looking at a sheet or looking at a report saying, am I good today?
Yeah.
And if it's a high number, oh, I'm great. I'm kicking butt and taking names. And if it's a low number, I suck. I've got, and it's just, you die 1,000 deaths, right? Every single day you wake up and you're either crucified or you feel like you're resurrected.
Right.
Right.
It's kind of bipolar.
Yeah, it's bipolar. But what God does as a good father is he puts that false identity to death.
Yeah.
He leads you through the valley of the shadow of death until that false identity is dead and crucified and resurrected. And the whole purpose is because your real self, who you are in God, right? That eternal self that's going to see the face of God and live in glory with God forever, that true self has already been crucified with Christ and has already been resurrected. And one day it's going to be glorified. So that person can't die in that sense, right?
And I think that's something that like I've been camping out on for 9 months now through those near-death experience books, was what it's going to be like to be in front of God, the creator of the universe. And like I tell my friends, so I just hired my best friend who I actually helped lead to Christ about 1.5 years ago, baptized him when I was down in Florida. And so he's been like, I've never had somebody like this in my life where it's iron sharpens iron. Like he is rabidly consumed with the pursuit of Jesus Christ. And so we've been on this journey together. And I was just telling him, it's like, dude, I can't wait to die. Like, I don't want to leave. Like, I love my kids. I love my wife. I love what I'm doing. But dude, let's get up there. Let's get up to heaven. Let's get in front of the throne and just worship for millennia and, forever. Because like, there is nothing better. Like, there is nothing here on earth that is even going to remotely compare to what we experience in heaven. And so that's literally what drives me now. It's just that the eternal glory that I will get to participate in.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Paul says, to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Oh yeah.
He's like, it's better for me if I die, but it's better for you if I stay around here.
Yeah. And Christ, like, he was very familiar with suffering. So I think that this is something that a lot of people believe about building and the success that they're going to attain, is that it will alleviate suffering. Impossible. And in fact, if you're building and you're not suffering in it, then you're doing something wrong, in my opinion. And I only say that because like, this is the kind of thing with people who have vanilla testimonies. I was a drug addict personally, and I escaped addiction and became saved. And so like people are like, oh, I wish you had a testimony, or I had a testimony like that. And I'm like, in a way, I get it. And they're like, I have this kind of vanilla testimony. Well, that's because you haven't tried to, how do I say this? Like, you haven't invited hardship into your life to allow God to do something that you see in my life. My suffering has done this cool thing where God showed up, not me. And you think that's cool. You, in your life, with your vanilla testimony, just haven't done enough to experience God showing up like that. And you just have this, I mean, it's good, it's nice, but you want something, you want adventure. You want to pursue something that is meaningful. And so I think that building something, if there is an absence of suffering, or hardship, then you're not really building something. You're just kind of plodding along. So, and that's what I've seen with this discipline. It's like, I've tried all these different roads to try and make something work, and they didn't work out. And now I'm on the path having this new discovery of who I am and what awaits me. And I'm getting to do this thing that's like, again, more challenging than I've ever done. And now it's like running a company and starting another one. Like, I'm literally working 2 jobs right now and have not been paid. And so it's just like, okay, that's suffering, but I see where it's all pointed. I know where I'm going to be when it's all over. And that's the thing that I get to hope in. It's not that I make $100 million company and, get to sell it for $300 million and take whatever. I mean, those are possibilities, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. So, part of this podcast is I'm wanting to inspire guys to take the risk, get out there and build something, right? Yeah. And so part of it's like, you can do it, go after it, get after it. But then the other side of it is like, no one understands how risky it is and how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Right. And
you can't until you do it.
You can't until you do it. And but what you're saying there, until you take that risk and you get out there, you don't really see God show up,
right,
and do miraculous things, right? Until you get out there.
Where we're at with our company, the fact that we're even still in business, the current company, is a miracle. And I've had some really cool things. I've actually been documenting them to, like, where God is just, I think that Doug Wilson calls it Narnian snow, or people call it God winks colloquially, whatever that word is.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, he is doing these things just as like, hey, I'm in this with you. Like, it seems bleak. And I mean, it literally, when we took me off payroll, we're like, December 5th, we might just be done. Like, it might just end. So we did all these drastic things. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, I know he's in this. Like, I see it every day. The fact that we're in business is a testament to his faithfulness, not our own ability, honestly. Like, the thing, because that's the thing is, when you're working in paid advertising, you almost feel like the advertising platforms are your enemy, because you would think, oh, they should just let us spend more money. And in fact, they actually work against you all the time. And we've been experiencing increases in efficiency every single day for the past 2.5 months. And we've been striving for years. There's no meaningful, like, explanation whatsoever. But I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, the products are the same. The ads are the same. I mean, we do have a Navy SEAL in one ad, so that kind of helps. But yeah. I've carried the ads forever. I've been in the ads for 4 years. I'm just like, that's not us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a great team. We have people who are committed to the end, but there's God. Like, there's the only explanation.
How many employees do you guys have?
Yeah. Probably like 7 employees, tons of contractors.
Yep.
Yeah, because we're all virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was 11 employees, and then quite a few of them are not coming back, because those are the decisions we had to make.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had to fire 4 people this year. I fired 2 and laid off 2.
That's the kind of stuff that people it doesn't even register, like, how difficult it is to do that, especially if you're building this business where you feel like family, you feel like I care about these people, and they're just not performing or whatever they're doing. And it's incredibly difficult to let somebody go, especially if you are a builder, because you might not be like this, but I'm like this way. It's probably arrogance, but I think when I look back on my story, I'm like, if some dude would have just invested more in me, dude, I would have been so much better at a young age. Like, I would have done anything he said. I would have worked my butt off. I just needed to invest in him. And most of the time it was just me I just had to figure it out on my own.
Right.
So I have this idea of like, everybody's kind of like that. And anybody that wants to be invested in, I could hire them and I can build them and they can become whatever I need them to become. And it's just not true.
I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I was like, why is it that some people just don't try? They're not motivated. And she's just like, well, God made some people to work in grocery stores. You won't do it, but they will. I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's not to say that, like, working in a grocery store is a bad job.
Yeah.
It's, I just remember where I came from. And, like, when I was working in grocery stores, that was my first job. I was just looking to what could I be? But you can build anywhere. So I don't want to be dismissive. It's just like those kinds of things, especially if you're the CEO or the president of a company and you're like, hey, yeah, I can build this person. You can't change the nature of a person. You can
I don't,
help.
I don't, I don't like excuses, period. If a person works at a grocery store, that's totally fine. If I worked at a grocery store, which I have in the past,
Yeah.
but if I worked at a grocery store and I was going to be there long term, I would be looking at I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the manager.
Right.
I'm going to own this branch. I'm going to do, like, that's where I'm going. I don't care if I'm checking people out. In 5 years, I'm moving up the chain here, right? And what we're talking about is just having ambition.
Right.
And there's selfish ambition and there's godly ambition.
Right.
And the Bible, he said we should have godly ambition. We should strive to be a producer, to do better, to add value to wherever we're at, and to move up the chain, right? And to become the type of people that could run the store or run, the whole area or whatever. So it's not about what industry you're in specifically. It's like, do you have that godly ambition?
Right.
That wants to obviously provide for your family, wants to provide, leadership to people, make the grocery store a better place, whatever it is, make the place better, wants to build the kingdom, give back to the kingdom of God, right? Obviously, the more money you make, the more money you get to bless to the kingdom of God and plant churches and build schools and all that kind of thing. But the guy that just is checking out,
just exists,
and he's, it's like, I want to light a fire under that guy's butt, and I want to be like, man, that's not what you were made for.
right?
You weren't made for that. And again, you can be digging ditches, but dig ditches and want to do it faster than the guy next to you, want to do it better than the guy next to you, want to move up in the organization. So how has it been at home? Like, you're a builder out here and you're in the dip and it's really difficult. How has it been at home with, you've got to provide for your family and you got a wife and you got kids? What's that been like?
Challenging and really rewarding. Yeah. While this has been the hardest year of my life professionally, it's probably been one of the most rewarding from a personal standpoint, because what this has done has forced me to become more vulnerable with my wife. Like, typically I would just hold stuff back about business because I'm like, she can't possibly understand. She wouldn't even be interested. And then my wife is sitting there telling me, I do want to know these kinds of things, and part of you is like, well, I don't want to just tell you this and scare the crap out of you. So, you don't need to know how bad it is. But at the same time, now I also have this assurance that I don't have to worry about anything anyways, because God is sovereign and he's got this, and whatever ends up happening is what he wanted in the first place. So I can level with her and say, this is what we're going through. This is how I'm feeling. The other things so that's been great. I've seen so many changes in my marriage as a result of what has happened in my life related to work. So as I have been honestly exposed, that's what's happened, is I've been exposed in a way that is uncomfortable. I am not entirely at fault for what has happened, but I can own the fact that I was a participant in some of what the business did to get to this place. Granted, I don't have to say too much, but there's a lot that we're working against right now that is not my fault at all. It was done in a back room without my knowledge and came to light only after the papers were signed. So those are the kinds of things I'm like, I can't do anything about that, but I don't have to be a victim. I still own my perspective and I still have choices to make. And I can, I think that I can rescue this company, God willing, and I can definitely do something new with a new company. So, but those are the kinds of things where I'm like, okay, so that's happening in business. Where in my personal life am I really blowing it? Well, your wife is telling you that for years she has felt like you're roommates. And this is coming from somebody who's been involved in church and MCs, which is our missional communities, in a fight club. Man, I was just dropping the ball still because, one, I was so consumed with work. It's very difficult for me at 5 o'clock to just check out. I'm taking my phone down with me. I'm distracted. So those are the kinds of things that I'm like, those times, they just don't get work done. I'm not getting work done in those times. And if something were to fall through in the 3 hours from 5 to 8 when I'm just off my device, that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to sacrifice my home life and the relationships that matter more than anything for me to save this company. Because if it ends up failing, I'll go figure something else out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, planting this church, building this church, we've done the same thing, And those moments where you're down and you have difficulty and stress and why are you taking me through this, God? What's going on? And pastors can be just the same way. Pastors can build their identity on the number of people that come on Sunday. And if it's a good week, if it's a bad week, they feel like a complete loser.
Right.
And when people leave the church, you feel like you failed, you suck, all this kind of stuff. And for me, one of the best things, I'd go home and for the most part, I'm the same way. I don't want to talk about work. I want to talk about the family and what everybody's doing. I don't want to tell you about this difficult conversation I had to have today and rehash the whole thing. But a few times my wife's asked, let me in, and I've shared it with you. And both of us, she's like, all right, I'm sorry, Jess, it's hard. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, this woman trusts me.
Yeah.
Okay, this woman trusts me. That's great. But it's also peeling away that false identity that you think it's not like you would ever think this, but somewhere in your soul, you're like, she's with me because I'm successful. She's with me because, I can buy her this or do this. And then you realize like, no, she just freaking loves you.
Yeah.
And if this whole thing burned down, she'd be there.
Yeah.
She'd be the only one probably that would be there. And this is more important than, what you think you're building.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want my kids to not know their dad because I was trying to get a Ferrari. Like that seems pretty silly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, many guys do it and it's a trope, but it's true.
It's very true. I'm well aware inside of our business, that exact trope.
Yeah. It's sad. So my kind of motto is I want to be loved most by the people who know me the best.
Yeah.
Right. So my wife, my kids, and then out from there, my family, my missional community, those who know me, the people on the internet, I really don't freaking care.
Oh yeah.
When you got, I can't even imagine the amount of comments.
Thousands of, like probably 1,000 a day. I would say about 1,000 a day. And when I wear my Earth Runner thong sandals, people get really mad.
Rightly so.
Like, why are you looking at men's feet, dude? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Oh man. So a young guy thinking about kicking the tires, wanting to be an entrepreneur, wanted to do it God's way, wanted to put Christ center, and then family second. Like, what would you say? Like, what's a piece of advice that you'd give them right now?
I mean, the first thing that I would say is like produce something of value that solves problems. I think that the reason that our business has worked so well for as long as it has, which is almost 3.5 years, 3 years, is because our product solves a problem that a lot of people have. So, like when I first got started in this, the copywriting stuff, I was thinking, I'm going to help CrossFit owners. Well, so I should say two things, like depending on what success is to you, like if you really want to make a lot of money because you are intently about building the kingdom and you have the wherewithal to know that like your identity is not in what you generate, like go to where the money is, in the sense of like, hey, I can solve a problem in this industry and it'll pay really well. Like if you could have invented natural Ozempic, that would have been great, right? You'd be a billionaire. Like, not that that would exist, but you can go to where the money is and then you can solve a problem. But I think it starts with solving a problem and then understanding that you can produce value. And I think that when people build things, a lot of the time they're not thinking about the value. They're just thinking about the building, right? Like if you build the most beautiful church in the entire world and then all of your seats are triangles, like nobody's going to use that. You could have this edifice that is immaculate and people are like, wow, that's really cool, but it has no utility. It's meaningless. So that's the one thing that I would say is like, just start with value. And then like, if you really do want to make money, and this has been my thought around this, is like, I remember years ago when I was visiting Denver to see if I could, or was going to end up moving there, I had thought like, what if I just flip the tithing model personally? And instead of doing 10% and 90% you keep, what if I could do 90-10? Like Rick Warren is famous for that, off of his book sales. So that's something that I've endeavored to do. And I think that I could absolutely achieve that. Because, let's say you make $10 million a year, you would never feel the fact that you gave away $9 million, especially if you have the right mindset, which is like the only thing that matters is Jesus Christ and knowing him and loving him. And then like taking care of those around you. Like who can't live off $1 million a year? And I'm not even like, in that case, you could probably afford to give 95% away. But those are the two things that I would
If
say.
you live in Iowa, not if you live in Denver.
Right. Yeah, dude. Gosh, that's so crazy how
Yeah,
expensive
no,
it is.
J.C. Penney did the same thing. By the end of J.C. Penney's career, he was giving away 90% and living on 10%. He was a Christian.
Yeah. So, and that's that's the mindset. Like, I think that a lot of people look at companies or industry and capitalism and they're like, oh, it's terrible. Like, all it is about making money. I think that people who are oriented towards kingdom building should be the ones that are controlling the levers of power as it relates to bringing in money and then distributing it. Like, what would happen if Eli Lilly was a Christian company? Or what would happen if Walmart, what if they were actually Christians? They make so much money. What if they were directing it in ways that were building the kingdom? I mean, honestly, I remember thinking this as like, if people, like if all the companies, if everybody lived according to Christ's teachings, granted they would continue to sin, but like, let's say most of them got it right some of the time, this world would be totally different.
Yeah.
It'd be completely different.
Yeah. Well, there's some that say capitalism is based on loving your neighbor like yourself. So basically what you're doing is he has a need.
Yeah.
I will meet that need for him. He will pay me.
Right.
Right. And doing this in every relation we got. I'm going to be a deck builder. I'm going to be whatever. I'm providing a good service. You're going to pay me for it.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. Like, have you ever been to Bentonville, Arkansas?
No, but I know that I need to go because Onyx Coffee's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Onyx is amazing.
I know.
I've been many times. I used to have a subscription to Onyx. Love them.
It's so good. Did it do it with the scale?
Yeah, they do everything, dude.
So like, doesn't that scale know, like you weigh your bag and then it's like, oh, you're almost out and they ship you a new bag?
Yeah. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. So, but I bring it up because even though Walmart isn't a Christian company, Bentonville, which is the home of Walmart, where Walmart was founded, Bentonville is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's in Arkansas and so Walmart or Sam Walton, I'm not going off the top of my head here, but basically his granddaughter was into art.
Mm-hmm.
So he put $100 million art museum in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Jeez.
And his grandson was into mountain biking.
I've heard this.
So he put $100 million into mountain biking trails. It's literally the mountain biking mecca of the United States. $100 million.
That's
the whole
crazy.
community. It's bringing people from all across the nation. Insane trails. I mean, so this is bringing people in there. Then they've got Onyx Coffee,
Yeah.
the whole downtown area, really cool shops. The Walmart downtown feels like a hipster, Whole Foods or something. It's like a neighborhood. The buildings, the homes, like old slab houses, they've torn down. They're building mansions right downtown. Like the whole area has been renovated.
Right.
And it's, what if you did that with Christ at the center?
Yeah.
You'd have a big old beautiful church down there, right? And you're building a Christian community around that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can happen.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's why we should be trying to help people see the importance of Jesus Christ in their life. Because honestly, like the crazy thing is, just in my own life, especially this past year, I've found myself wanting material things way less. Like, and I often wonder, like, how am I ever gonna stop wanting things? Like, because as I made more money, I was like, oh, cool, I can get more stuff. Like, and then you get more stuff. I've actually even got to the point where it's like, I don't even want more things because I don't want to have to deal with the cardboard boxes and breaking them down. Like, this is my life now. And so I've just been freed of
First world problems there.
Yeah, seriously. Of course, your wife will just throw them into the garage.
I never get tired of getting books. Even though I got all this cardboard, I never get tired of getting new books.
I never get tired of getting a utility knife out and cutting down a cardboard box. So simple pleasures. But I was just thinking, like, how am I ever going to get rid of wanting things? And as I've transformed and just found value in whose I am and like not what I achieve, like I don't even want things. So I forget where we got. Oh yeah, if people just had that at the center, they would want less as it relates to consuming things, and then they would want to be able to use the income they're generating to build things instead. And likewise, if other people were like that, they would be the same way. Like if all of us, I mean, it's basically what communism hopes to be, where you're just like, hey, we're going to share everything. Of course, like the state gets in there and messes things up. But if people were like the early church, where they're just like, hey, you don't have a coat? I do. Here's your coat. You just wouldn't even have an attachment to money any longer because it wouldn't matter. Like it would not have value the way that it does right now, the way that people chase it in so many instances when they're building companies. And I think if you're going to build anything that's a company, like you should be able to keep that perspective in mind. Like, more is not better when it relates to money that you're trying to keep for yourself. It's definitely better if more of it's going out. It should just be transactional, where it moves through your hands and into something that is built for the purpose of glorifying God.
Well, that's a good point, because, you know, in God's word, he says that we're stewards, that everything he gives to us as stewards, and we're not just to, and it's actually condemned
Yeah.
when he gives the person, you know, some money and they just spend it on themselves and they don't invest.
They go bury it.
They either go bury it, or, you know, they use it on themselves, and they're not asking the question, what does God want me to do with this business? What does God want me to do with this income? You know, it doesn't mean just because you get more money that you upgrade the house, you upgrade the car, you go on the more fancy vacation. Now, sometimes that's great, but sometimes it is, you know what, actually, I know you're comfortable right now, but you actually need to start another business.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, you need to invest in the kingdom of God and pay off somebody's building, or buy a school, or like, we need, you know, the kingdom needs that outpost.
Right.
Because I've been thinking, it's getting so difficult for churches to buy buildings anymore, because all the old neighborhoods, you would buy a piece of land and you would build a church, and then the neighborhood would build up around it.
Right.
And now, most of the time, you don't have a church within 15 minutes of where all the new buildings going on.
Right.
Right. Nobody's even thinking about that. So where all of the growth is happening and the neighborhoods are expanding, you're 15, 20 minutes away from the closest church.
Yeah, I think the church that moved out of this building is the only one in our town in that area.
Yeah.
Like, other than like old churches, and then still like 10 minutes away.
Yeah. And they, you know, were gifted that land by some entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think it was like 20, 25 years ago, maybe even more than that, they were gifted that land.
Yeah, when it was worth probably not a lot of money.
Not what it is now.
Yeah.
Not what it is now. Yeah. So, man, well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to look up Vanish, and you can't drop the name of your new business yet?
No, I can't do it.
Okay.
Can't even tell you what industry it's in.
Okay. Well,
But you can probably guess, because my dream of retirement is just doing what I'm doing and being able to shoot my guns more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to have you back on. Adam, appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Guys, drop any comments down below. You can make fun of his shirt. You can, you know, ask him a question. We'll get back. We can answer that question. We appreciate you guys watching the videos. Give us a like, subscribe. We don't have $1 million a month to send on advertising, so we need every like and every subscription. Helps more people find us. So thank you guys for that, and we will talk to you again next week. God bless, and go act like men.